I see you.
I think I've decided that willbenders can die. Like
Yeah.
seriously, I'm fighting like 6 people and I'm not dying. I don't know how.
They are bad.
That's quite impressive.
They're gilded.
That doesn't matter. They're still bad. Cool. So, well, let's start with basics. We're going to go for all we need to know about Firebrands in this small training session. So let's get started. We have 3 different builds to look at. As we will see, Firebrand is one of the most versatile classes in Guild Wars 2. And obviously the foundation of any squad. We have 3 different builds, which we are looking in this exact order. The first 2 are support builds. The last one is a mix between offense and defense. However, all of them uses the same weapons, which are Mace and Shield and Staff. So that's easy. The Mace and Shield, of course, are just selected mostly. The Mace for the Protective Strike and the Shield for Shield of Judgement. Both of them provide the Aegis. It's also important to know that the Symbol of Faith provides regen, although it's very, very small in duration. It ticks, and it's a nice way to spread regen. The Shield 5, as you well know, you can double tap it to provide healing, and then probably it's best if you always double tap it. Staff, well, Staff is bread and butter of any Guardian build. It's used for the 1200 range skills, which are all of them except for Empower. It's important to know that the number 2 and the number 4 both have some healing component, and they can be used to burst healing. Now, with weapons out of the way, we will look at the sigil later. Let's start with the first support build. Let me invite you in the party so I can share with you. Actually, doesn't matter because you're watching the screen. So, our first build is this one. It's pretty much standard in the sense that we are running Virtue's Honor and Firebrand. Virtue's, we use middle, but mainly for the extra healing provided by the Virtual Resolve. And for the Honor, well, it's a standard build. Aegis provides some healing. Also, Will gives you some vitality and healing increase. In Firebrand, we're using the bottom trait, so we are running with 8 pages rather than 5, and the rest is standard. This is the highest healing build that you can create on Guardian. The utilities, as you might have noticed, are different from the standard build that we are running right now. Receive the Light. Well, it speaks for itself. It's the only healing skill that heals allies, and it does huge burst healing. The Bow, it's your highest healing skill that you have, although it doesn't seem like it. Month of Lore can be replaced with the hallowed ground. In that case, you want to run the Master of Consecration to reduce the cooldown. But it's suggested you run the Mount of Lore because provide easy access to regen, which is something really important for this build. Now, before looking at the equipment, which is different from what we are running right now, small note on the healing output. As you might know or not, a regen gets overwritten every time it gets applied by someone with higher healing power. Which means that if you have like a scrapper in your group with your own buff, which is the Eternal Oasis up, and that scrapper is running high healing power, it's going to replace all your regen. Therefore, if you're looking at arc DPS, you will see that your healing output from regen is really low. Now, if you are playing with me, I'm running this build already, I'm overwriting all your regen because my healing power is higher than yours. And that's something to keep in consideration, especially when looking at arc DPS numbers. Because it might seem that you are not healing properly, but that's probably not the case. And it's simply due to the fact that your scrapper has overwritten your regen. Now, if your regen gets overwritten, your top healing skills will be the bow and receive the light and probably the Aegis. That's important to know before we even start looking at the rest of the build. Now, as for the equipment, we are not running Minstrel anymore. We are running Cleric, full Cleric on armor, Magi on the weapons, and a mix of Cleric and Magi on accessories. Now, the exact build, you can find it in Discord. The important part to note is that we have almost 0 concentration. This 70 comes from the trades, but we have a shit ton of healing. Now, 1700, you also have to add the stacking sigil, which brings you to roughly 2000, over 2000 healing power, which is really high. Important thing to note, we are running the life and transference, which means no energy. You can choose whether to run double sigil, stacking sigil, like I'm running, because I didn't want to bother to remember which weapon set had the stacking sigil. In this case, it's easy. And if you do, remember to run the stacking sigil also on your underwater weapon. Doesn't matter what stats are there, but it's important that your underwater weapon has the stacking sigil, because otherwise, whenever you go underwater, you lose all your stacks, which is annoying. Now, what are the pros of this build? Well, of course, it has really high healing power through regen, which you can provide using the chapter number 3, your Mace number 2, the Mount of Lore, and also you have a base resolve healing, keeps ticking. In addition to that, you have loads of active skills that provides healing output, like the bow, the perceive the light, the shining river, and all your staff skills that heal basically number 2 and number cons of this build is that you are not really providing loads of stability, in the sense that you don't have a lot of ground available, so you have to rely on the Stand Your Ground and Mantle of Liberation. Other thing that is that with this build, it's really hard to maintain the Invigorated Bulwark as uptime. I mean, you can, of course. An easy way is before entering the dome, try to stack up some blocks with the Protector Strike and Shield of Judgment and passive Aegis, and you might be able to get the level 5 stacks, but keeping them up might be a challenge. The playstyle is also different from what we are used to, in a sense that usually Firebrands open with a Tome of Courage when they enter when they start the fight, but with this build, and for what you want to do with this build is start on resolve at the start. So what you're gonna do is start with your resolve and try to keep 100% uptime or close to it of Eternal Oasis, which is the skin number 5.
Hello.
You want to try to apply as much as possible regen to your allies for Month of Lore and the chapter number 3. And you always want to use your active healing skills when your Eternal Oasis is up. So you activate your number 5, you maybe drop down the bow, you activate this one, and as you can see, you have slight downtime between the end of Oasis and actually reuse it, and in that downtime you can use your stability skills. Now, as a general rule, you always want to have 1 stack of Mantle of Liberation. We don't have a group one. I mean, I'm just talking and showing in Discord. So you always want to have 1 stack of Mantle of Liberation available, and you want to have maximum of 2 stacks. So whenever you're in fight, you try always to keep 1 or 2 stacks. Since we are not running Minstrel on this build, your boom duration, especially on the Mantle of Liberation, is really low. So it's like 3 seconds. It's not like you can spam it whenever you want. While during a fight, you probably can get away with that, but you might want to focus your stability a little bit more. And of course, whenever we start a fight, we start with Stand Your Ground. We have loads of stability at the start, and usually that stability, Stand Your Ground plus the Mantle of Liberation, is enough to finish using your resolve. Remember that you don't want to spam the tome skills, but rather use them to be effective. And your priority is in number 5. The number 4, if we are stacked in a place, drop it. It's like huge for healing output. And otherwise, use your number 3. You have 8 pages, so you should be able to use the number 5, number 4 3 times, and the number 3 twice. That's the usually it goes like that. Now, of course, when you are out with that, you can use the Tome of Courage. You also have 8 pages here, so You can try and fit as many unbroken lines as you can. Chapter 4 is, of course, important. And then, since you're probably out of stability, you can use your number 1 to fill in stability when you don't have Month of Liberation or Stand Your Ground. That's the first healing build. This is the highest healing build, and that's because you have access to Battle Presence, which by itself it provides loads of passive healing. Now, if we upgrade to the second build, this build will be more viable tomorrow with the balance patch, in the sense that they're gonna change the amount of Solas and give us Aegis back, which is nice. Now, this build should be familiar to you, in the sense that it's the Aegis build that we won before the nerf to Month of Solace. The idea is to apply as much Aegis as possible, but knowing that doing so, we are sacrificing passive healing to provide more stability. And I'm listing all these builds because there is no build that is perfect in all situations, and you have to pick and choose which one is more suited for the enemies or your own part. In fact, the very first build that we took through was more suited when either your scrapper is not that good, or we are taking loads of damage. Maybe your scrapper is perfect, but other scrappers are having a hard time keeping people up, and therefore you sharing regen everywhere and healing everywhere, you're gonna help other group to stay alive. With this build, you're losing that possibility to share regen everywhere, and your regen is still strong enough because we haven't lost any healing power, but you don't have easy access to regen for the mantra. You do give Aegis everywhere, and each Aegis is roughly 1200 healing output, something like that, if you include all the healing modifiers that we have. Should know it's more 3k healing. But it's still good, right? But it's more of burst healing. It's not something constant that keeps sticking, and that's something that you might want if you're sieging, for example. If you're sieging, the first build is perfect because you keep applying a constant passive healing and people are not dying as much. But now, pros of this build, well, you get way more Aegis and way more stability and quickness because we topped the additional pages to get the Liberty as well, because it makes sense since we are running the Month of Solace. Cons, well, as I said, you're losing healing. You're losing healing because you cannot camp the Tome of Resolve as much, and also you are gonna change the way you approach the fight. In the first build, we start with Resolve. With this build, we're gonna start in Courage, because you wanna get through your first Tome of Courage as fast as possible while providing useful boons like 5, 4, probably 3, and then you wait a little bit, You're not gonna waste it completely, but you wait a little bit, you use number 4 again, number 5, another reflect, and that's you're out with your protector strike. Because then you need the Aegis to start reducing the cooldown using the natural defense. And there you go. You try to use Aegis as much as possible to reduce the cooldown and go back to bullets. Yeah. With the 5 pages, as I just shown, you want to use your number 4 and number 5 twice, and the number 3 once. It doesn't matter whether it's the start or the end. Just use it when it makes sense. Since we are starting with Dome of Courage, you're not going to use Stand Your Ground as you push, but you're going to delay it when you first exit the Dome, basically. Or as needed by the fight. But ideally, you want to start with maybe a stack of Mental Liberation to pre-stab, and then since you're getting inside immediately, the very first skill provides stability. If really needed, you could use chapter 1 instead of chapter 3 to provide an extra stack of stability, but you basically want to try and delay your Stand Your Ground. You also have access to Hallowed Ground. Use it to fill in the gaps with your stability. Try not to stack your stability skills all together, otherwise you will end up in not having enough stability to keep your party alive. Now, that's it for the support builds. Now we're going for another build, which I call it offensive, in a sense that it deals a little bit of damage other than healing. As you saw, the gear didn't change between the first and the second build. They share the exact same gear set. The other one changes a little bit. We're still using Cleric and Monk runes with healing infusions on all the gear. The weapons have changed. Now we're using Soldier instead of Magi, and we're using the Sigil of Bloodlust instead of the Sigil of Life. We're still using Transference. Other than that, I've basically replaced this one. This one should be Soldier. I've basically replaced Magi with Soldier, and that's it. And the rest is all Cleric. Now, we get a decent amount of power. Crit chance doesn't matter for the type of damage that we do, but we still have a good amount of healing power. This is not Minstrel level, because Minstrel is around 1500. We are a little lower than Minstrel, but still we are providing a decent amount of healing. Trade wise, we are using Zeal to have access to Mystic Rebuke or Shatter Aegis. It means that every time we one of our Aegis skills blocks an attack, it deals damage. Since it cannot critically hit, it doesn't matter whether we have critical chance or not. Honor, standard build, but it also means that every time our Aegis blocks an attack, it grants healing. So as you can see, we have both damage component and healing component. We are able to support our party. The issues are that our regen will be overwritten by almost everybody, so our passive regen doesn't matter. In fact, as you can see, we don't have any way of giving a regen except for Symbol of Fate and our Tome of Resolve. The playstyle also changes a little bit. We want to start in Tome of Justice to drop 5 before the fight starts, and number 4 as the fight starts, to ensure burning on as many people as possible, while our Aegis start triggering, and switch immediately without using the remaining 3 pages to the Tome of Courage and start pumping out stability and Aegis through various means. Again, the fact that you would like to do more damage by exiting the Tome of Courage doesn't really matter at this point, because you don't have any cooldown reduction on it. So don't spam your way out of it, but just use it as discussed before. You have twice number 5 and once either the Bulwark or the charge. Keep in mind that the Bulwark does damage, so if you wanna do more damage, you can drop there, and then number 5, number 4, that's it. When you are out, basically it plays the same as the previous build. The only difference is that you're not reducing the cooldown, but you're trying to do as much damage as possible, which means that you have to take care of doing basically the same things. You don't want to overstack Aegis, because otherwise you're gonna lose potential damage and potential healing on it. And this build, again, it will be more viable tomorrow as they change the amount of solace to give Aegis instead of protection. Believe it or not, that's all I wanted to cover in a long monologue.
Thank you, Shenko. I will be asking questions once I get my head around it all.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so basically all the builds are available in Discord, in the Guardian channel. This build, fair warning, both the first build that we talked about, you can play it with Minstrel without any issue whatsoever. And as I wrote in the post in the Guardian channel, I decided to drop concentration completely from the build, and it makes sense because you don't really care about concentration in Wolves' Sword. It says that all your boons are really long enough to be okay with 0 concentration. The only one that really requires you to pay a little bit more attention is the amount of liberation, because 3 seconds is a narrow window, but still, once you get used to it, you don't even notice. And I looked at the logs, and my uptime and the uptime of any other Firebrand running Minstrel, it's basically the same. And there is a reason for that. The reason is actually really simple. We keep getting corrupted. So it doesn't really matter whether your boon lasts for 20 seconds or 10 seconds, because it's gonna last 2 seconds, because it's gonna get deleted immediately. And what really matters is reapplication of boons. In fact, in the first build, I chose to run the amount of lore, because then regen, it doesn't matter whether it lasts 6 seconds, because I really want to constantly reapplying it. And if you look at my gameplay, I always spam Month of Solace on the group. Even if I don't have any condies to clear, it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm not running the amount of lore to remove 2 condies. I'm sure that our scalpers are instantly removing any conditions. And if it does happen to remove some condi, well, it's nice, but yeah, it's not the idea. The idea is constant reapplication of boons, and that's where the concentration doesn't really matter. But the raw stats really does matter. So I've chosen to use the maximum healing power that you can get, which is this number. As a guardian, you can further increase it by using quickness. Quickness improves healing power. You can further increase it with the stacking sigil, which is another choice. As you can run this build with full ministerial gear, you can also run it using energy instead of the sigil of life. You have to be mindful that you're going to lose healing power by doing so. The sad thing about the regen, as I took before, your regen won't be applied, because as a minstrel Firebrand, your healing power is lower than a full minstrel scalper. And the scalper, which are cheating by the way, they are applying regen every time they cleanse a condition.
Okay.
So they exist and they apply apply regen. That's it. Now, if you're running full minstrel, what I really suggest from tomorrow is running this build, because then regen doesn't really matter and it's easier to play, and it's really effective build because you're still providing lots of stability. Aegis, it's fine. Lately I've been running the first build both as a commander and as a follower. Even in the commander party, it works. You're providing enough stability to not get mech overly mad. So yeah, that's the idea. But yeah, so you don't need to change your gear immediately, because other slight note, while I've crafted the build to have a certain amount of toughness and health, you can easily see that's lower than what you're running on full minstrel. It means that while it provides way more output in the sense of healing power and it feels stronger to play, it is a little bit squishier. Again, I've played with this exact build on the other account as a commander. So, if I can stay alive as a commander in front of everybody, I'm sure, it works. You don't need the extra health, but you need to be aware that this build does have less HP and a little bit less toughness. So, if you feel like, I'm dying too quickly, then probably playing minstrel is safer. Same goes for the damage variant. Well, body damage variant to be effective. Now this build works because I've decided to ignore concentration, and therefore it's power and healing with toughness and vitality to get a little bit more health and toughness. Now this works and it's okay because you have all the elements. But if you're running full Wanderer, for example, you won't have any healing. And if your Scopper for some reason dies or is in need of a little bit of help, as a full Wanderer, you cannot do anything with it. I've tried running this build full Marauder and any other variation of any other power build, but it really doesn't matter because the highest damage that you are doing is for Aegis. The only thing that you really need is power, which this combination of stats gives you enough power to do damage and enough healing to support your Scopper. So yeah, that's the wrap up.
Cool.
Yeah.
All
Thank you.
clear. Thank you.